Hi everyone, JD here, CEO of Sight for White and White Sense. It's been a really busy one here for us at Sight for White this week. Both of our boilers decided to give us trouble at the same time, and with one needing a full replacement. This means that gas engineers have been in and out of our sites all week. On top of that, we've had building contractors coming in to look at the plan to knock through the activities room to create a larger, more welcoming activity space. No construction yet, just plenty of site visits, measurements, and conversations about what's possible. Out in our garden, landscapers have been popping in to take first steps towards shaping our sensory garden, and all of this, of course, has put extra strain on our volunteers and staff, who have been juggling the day-to-day with people coming and going almost constantly. I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to the whole team for your patience and resilience to really do shine through. And alongside all that busyness, we've also had more personal moments this week as we've said goodbye to our finance manager after more than 2 years with us. It's always hard to see a colleague move on, but we're so grateful for their contribution and wish them every success in the future. Sometimes weeks like this, they feel hectic, like we're being pulled in every direction. But maybe that's what progress really looks like. A little bit of chaos and a lot of hard work, and a team that keeps moving forward together. In the end, I think that's something to be proud of. I look forward to catching up with you all again soon.
Here is this week's charity news, the 3rd of October 2025. Tomorrow, Saturday, we will be in Tesco Store Freshwater with our collecting buckets. We will be there between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m, so please pop by and say hello to our wonderful volunteers.
Swimming at Medina is on Monday between 1:15 and 2 o'clock. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim lanes or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you will be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
On Tuesday, we have our next creative writing group at Millbrook House, starting at 11 a.m. This group is informal and very enjoyable. The group discuss ideas and then come up with a story relating to a topic. You do not have to worry about the writing. We have many ways of producing the article. Please come along.
There will be no yoga until further notice due to volunteer unavailability.
Coffee and Chat is on Wednesday starting at 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment. Laura, the ECLO, will be joining us for a chat, so please pop along.
Ion Social is on Wednesday at 2 o'clock here at Millbrook House. This month we have our wonderful volunteer Morris Kachuk talking about his life in showbiz and trading the boards. This is a very interesting talk and well worth coming along to. The cost is £3, which includes refreshments. This is open to everyone, members, volunteers, friends and family, so come along for an entertaining afternoon.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House. We have a waiting list for this group, but if you're interested, please call the office to put your name down.
Next Monday the 13th, our Hearing Cafe will be meeting at the Wadhams Cafe, St James's Square, Newport, between 10:30 a.m. and midday. Karen and Caron will be joining you for the morning, so please pop along and have a chat.
We would like to thank everyone who took taking part in our sponsored cycle ride, RID, the White, for the whole of September. We cycled over 700 miles between us, volunteers, staff and members. If you would still like to donate, please call the office. Every penny helps the charity, helps island residents.
Hopefully You have now received a small autumn supplement newsletter which contained 2 books of raffle tickets along with details of upcoming events. Please call the office if you would like to purchase any items mentioned or to book a space at the Christmas lunch to be held at the Isle of Wight College.
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled Investment Company Completes Takeover of Red Funnel. Island ferry operator Red Funnel has been sold to investment company Nirod Partners, marking what bosses are calling an exciting new chapter for the 160-year-old service. The deal comes after a difficult few years for Red Funnel, with heavy debts limiting investment in its fleet and services. The new owners say the takeover will give the company a stronger financial footing, paving the way for improvements and a better experience for passengers travelling across the Solent. Nirod Partners, which has a track record in turning around UK businesses in the maritime and hospitality sectors, says it is committed to restoring Red Funnel's financial health and supporting its long-term success. Jakob Schellberg and Fran Collins, Red Funnel CEO, said, "Our priority is to ensure Red Funnel operates sustainably and responsibly for decades to come. Partnering with Nirod Partners gives us the platform to support our ambitious future plans." Nirod's founding partner, Jakob Schellberg, added, "Red Funnel is a vital part of the Isle of Wight's economy and community, a true backbone of the Solent. We're excited to support its next chapter and help deliver the reliable, efficient service that islanders and visitors deserve."
Smoke-Free Island launches Stoptober roadshow across Isle of Wight from the Island Echo, read by Lee. Let's quit smoking together. That's the message from Smoke-Free Island, the island's stop smoking service, as they announce a series of roadshows across the island this month, offering you the chance to talk to their team and discover how they can help you to quit smoking for free and for good. The roadshow will visit community groups across the island throughout the month, culminating in a celebration event at Ryde Town Square on the 25th of October, featuring music, support and a range of family-friendly activities. Roadshow dates for your diary include Tuesday the 14th of October at the Riverside Centre, Newport, from 9:30 to 12:30 and from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. These free workshops give you the chance to learn more about the support available and take part in practical learning sessions. Wednesday the 15th of October at St James's Square, Newport, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m, and Saturday the 25th of October at Ryde Town Square, Ryde, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Every week during October, Smoke-Free Island will be on hand to welcome you at one of their drop-in sessions. Mondays at the Riverside Centre, Newport, from 9:30 to 12:30. Wednesdays at Downside Community Centre, Newport, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and West Wight Family Centre from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Thursdays, Sandown Library from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And the events are part of Stoptober, the nationwide campaign that inspires people who smoke to take the first step towards quitting. Since April, Smoke-Free Island has been supported by hundreds of people across the island to start their quit journey. And this October, they're ready to help even more people move to a healthier, smoke-free future. Smoke-Free Island provides a range of free support, including one-to-one help from specialist quit coaches, online and phone-based advice, and free access to nicotine replacement products, as well as support to quit smoking. The Smoke-Free Island service also provides quit support to people who vape or use other nicotine products, including for young people. With the right stop smoking support, you're far more likely to quit successfully than going cold turkey. Liz West, head of service at Smoke-Free Island, said, "The good news is when you remain smoke-free at 28 days, you are 5 times more likely to quit for good," she explains. This Stoptober, you're not quitting alone, you're joining a powerful movement across the Isle of Wight, and we are here to support you. Quitting smoking is one of the most important things you can do to improve your health, and it's never too late to quit, says Kate Harvey, Director of Public Health at the Isle of Wight Council. Smoking remains the biggest cause of preventable illness and early death, and we know that with the right support, many people want to and can successfully stop. The health benefits of stopping are almost immediate. Your sense of taste and smell improve, breathing becomes easier, energy levels rise, and coughs begin to ease as the lung function starts to recover. This Stoptober, I encourage anyone thinking about quitting to take that first step and access the free support available. Let's quit together this Stoptober. It's quick and it's easy to get started, and you don't need a referral to join. Call 01983 642 369 or text QUIT to 80011.
This article, read by Howard from On the Wight, is concerned with the Billion Pride in Place funding initiative. The Isle of Wight has missed out on getting any funding from a $5 billion investment package given to communities across the country. Whitehall, on the 25th of September 2025, announced the Pride in Place programme, providing $2 million in regeneration investment every year for a decade to 169 areas across the UK. A further 95 areas will receive $1.5 million immediately to upgrade public spaces with new green spaces, play areas, and sports and leisure facilities. Phil Jordan, leader of the Isle of Wight Council and Alliance Group, has said he's very disappointed about the island not receiving any of the money. However, he added he was thankful for the £20 million in regeneration funding awarded to RIDE in a previous funding stream. Across in the south of England, listed in the programme include Southampton, Portsmouth and Hastings. The Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government said areas receiving investment are doubly disadvantaged with both the highest deprivation levels and weakest social infrastructure. Neighbourhoods are to decide how best to spend the funds based on extensive community engagement with three main objectives: building stronger communities, creating thriving places, and empowering people to take back control. Joe Robertson, the Conservative MP for the Isle of Wight, said the government's launch of the £5 billion Pride in Place programme looks like a rebranding of the previous Plan for Neighbourhoods initiative introduced by the last government with no new money. We already have the RIDE Neighbourhood Board in place, and while I always welcome any new investment, I cannot identify anything genuinely new being offered here. My focus remains on working with the RIDE Development Board and its chair, Steve Holbrook, to ensure we deliver real benefit for local people and help attract further private investment to make sure the £20 million goes even further. Councillor Jordan said, I know that the methodology used to grant the funding is based on data of deprivation and pride in local area or community need. The funding is at local authority level, not town or parish level. I am, of course, very disappointed that the island didn't meet the method criteria for allocating this funding, and we are to receive none. I am thankful, however, that a previous funding stream awarded £20 million to RIDE, which will be used to invest in that local community. On a broader island note, I will continue to fight for the fairer funding for the island needs and has evidence in the determination that we can achieve and ensure an ongoing annual uplift to the island funding, in addition to any future grant funding opportunities, such as the Pride in Place programme, that may arise. Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, said, "We're giving local people the power to transform their hometowns, giving them more control of how money is spent where they live so that together we can invest in Britain's renewal and build an economy that rewards working people." This £5 billion investment doesn't just reverse decades of underinvestment in our public infrastructure. It cuts through the bureaucracy by giving local people the power to deliver the change they want to see.
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled Sandown's Broadway Park Hotel purchased by Caledonian Leisure Group. The 104-bedroom Broadway Park Hotel in Sandown has been purchased by Caledonian Leisure, which operates under the Caledonian Travel and UK Breakaways brands. Following the acquisition, the property will be renamed as the Caledonian Island Hotel, a title chosen to reflect the company's affection for and strong connection to the Isle of Wight. It is due to reopen in February next year, when it will welcome both coach parties and self-drive guests. The hotel becomes the sixth property to join the growing Caledonian Hotel collection, which already includes popular destinations in Torquay, Blackpool, Scarborough, Arrochar, and most recently Callander. Graham Rogers, Managing Director at the Caledonian Leisure, says, "After the success of the Caledonian Hotel collection in other key UK locations, we're thrilled to welcome another beautiful hotel to our portfolio. The former Broadway Park Hotel is a key addition to our collection, and we're confident our customers will be delighted to see it become part of the Caledonian family." David MacDonald, Director, says, "The Isle of Wight is a wonderful holiday destination, and our customers always share fantastic feedback about their visits. We're proud to bring this historic property into our collection, and will soon begin recruiting local team members to deliver the exceptional warmth and hospitality that Caledonian is known for."
Work finally starts on a Sandown eyesore ahead of next court date. From the Island Echo, read by Lee. Work has finally started on the long derelict building at the corner of Fitzroy Street and Station Avenue in Sandown, nearly a year after the owners were prosecuted by the Isle of Wight Council for failing to maintain the land. The site, which includes 52, 54 and 56 Fitzroy Street, as well as 66 and 68 Station Avenue, has been at the centre of community concern for years, with complaints about its condition dating back more than a decade. In October 2024, Graham Assets Limited and 61-year-old Moses Meisels were convicted at Isle of Wight Magistrates Court under the Town and Country Planning Act 1990. The case, brought by the Isle of Wight Council, related to the owner's failure to comply with a planning enforcement notice requiring the site to be properly maintained. Despite that conviction, the council has since launched further legal proceedings. Court documents show that both parties are now accused of failing to take action after being found guilty, with a second charge linked to non-compliance with the enforcement notice. The case was listed at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court in August and has been adjourned to Tuesday the 7th of October for a case management hearing. However, in recent days, work has finally begun at the site. Local councillor Ian Ward has said on social media, "At long last, the owners of the building on the corner of Station Avenue and Fitzroy Street have started to comply with the Isle of Wight Council's planning enforcement order. It's taken several court cases because of ownership changes and appeals by the owners. The workman told me the first task was a replacement of the windows. The site was previously boarded up by police in May 2023 due to concerns about safety and access. In 2021, the Isle of Wight Council confirmed that a compulsory purchase order was being considered due to the building's deteriorating state. It remains to be seen whether the current works will be sufficient to meet the requirements of the enforcement notice and bring an end to the long-running issue in Sandown Town Centre.
Article read by Howard from Isle of Wight Radio concerns the application for glamping pods. A bid to transform a countryside campsite near Carlbourne into upmarket and high-end glamping accommodation has gone to appeal. In April, Isle of Wight Council planners turned down Mike and Sean First-Smith's application to install 3 glamping pods made from converted shipping containers at Mill Heights campsite northwest of the village. The scheme also included a reception, bike store, in-store, parking and new landscaping. However, the council ruled the development would be unsustainable and reliant on access by private car. Concerns were also raised about ecological impact, a lack of information, and what planners describe as an urbanizing effect on the rural setting. Now the applications have lodged an appeal backed by Phil Salmon Planning. In their statement, they argue the vision for a high-quality visitor destination on a boutique scale that would be an upgrade from the current site's caravan, tents and camper vans. They say the pods would have far less visual impact and would blend into the natural and rural character of the landscape. The appeal also includes new reports covering ecology, light spillage and revised designs following discussion with the council's ecology officer. A decision on the appeal will be made at a later date.
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled 2 people a week killed or seriously injured on Isle of Wight roads in 2024. New figures reveal that 2 people a week were killed or seriously injured on the Isle of Wight's roads during 2024, with a total of 305 casualties recorded across the year. The latest Department for Transport statistics show a year-on-year rise in the number of people hurt on the roads, up from 292 in 2023 to 305 in 2024. A breakdown of the figures shows 5 people were tragically killed, 103 seriously injured, and 197 slightly injured. Men accounted for 65.9% of all casualties. According to the official government statistics, 51 of those seriously or fatally injured were car occupants, while motorcyclists accounted for 31. Pedestrians made up 16 of the most serious cases, followed by 8 cyclists, 2 bus passengers and 1 van occupant. Despite the widespread belief that young drivers are responsible for the most serious crashes, the data suggests otherwise. 71 of those injured were aged over 60, making up 23.3% of the total. The worst affected age group was those aged 40 to 49, who accounted for 3 deaths, 14 serious injuries, and 17 slight injuries. Although serious injuries were most common on Wednesdays, accounting for 18.35% of all cases, 80% of the fatalities occurred at the weekend. The most dangerous time of day was 1500 hours, when 13.83% of serious injuries and 13.07% of slight injuries occurred. Rebecca Guy, Senior Policy Manager at the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents, ROSPA, has said, "These figures are a stark reminder that progress on road safety has stalled and lives are being lost unnecessarily. It is essential that the upcoming National Road Safety Strategy contains the measures and resources needed to prevent road traffic collisions." ROSPA's recent Safer Lives, Stronger Nation report highlights the need for a joined-up, evidence-led approach, including graduated driver licensing for young drivers, lower drink driving limits, better enforcement, and safer road design. Road death is preventable, and with evidence-based solutions, we can reverse this decade of stagnation.
Binsted man given suspended sentence for stalking police detective from the Island Echo, read by Lee. 45-year-old Stephen Tuckey has been handed a suspended prison sentence after being found guilty of stalking a police detective and damaging the front door of Newport Police Station. Tuckey of Hillside Avenue in Binsted appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Courts last Tuesday, the 23rd of September, when he was convicted of stalking DC Ross Jones of Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary and criminal damage. The court heard that between the 24th of May 2023 and the 1st of July 2023, Tuckey sent abusive emails, publicly displayed the officer's name with the intent of undermining him, and caused damage to the police station door on the 24th of June 2023. Tuckey denied both charges, resulting in multiple court cases, but was found guilty by magistrates last week. The 45-year-old was sentenced to 4 months in custody, suspended for 12 months. The court said that the custodial sentence was necessary due to the deliberate nature of the harassment, which was targeted at a serving police officer. However, the sentence was suspended after magistrates accepted there was a realistic prospect of rehabilitation. A pre-sentence report had recently been prepared for another matter, and probation services confirmed that Tuckey was engaging well and attending his rehabilitation activity sessions. A 10-year stalking protection order imposed in February 2024 for Tuckey's actions towards a Babe Station model remains in place. Tuckey's was ordered to pay £650 in cost to the Crown Prosecution Service, although in a previous hearing Tuckey stated he was already in £40,000 of debt.
Article from the Isle of Wight is read by Howard and concerns the new fire station approved for East Cowes. An essential new fire station will be built in East Cowes, replacing a previously demolished one. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Services HWFRS revised planning application for a replacement fire station on York Avenue in East Cowes has been accepted by County Hall. The plans include a station with a response unit and fleet maintenance facility, car parking provision, and landscaping. A design and access statement prepared by Boyle and Summers on behalf of HWFRS said, "Maintaining an operational fire station in East Cowes is essential as it provides critical fire coverage to the northeast of the Isle of Wight, an area with significant marine, industrial and heritage risks. The nearest alternative stations, Newport, Ryde and Cowes, are over 15 minutes away, exceeding HWFRS target response times of 8 minutes. The previous fire station was structurally unsafe, beyond economic repair, and contained asbestos, necessitating complete demolition in September 2024. Likewise, the existing Fleet Maintenance Centre, FMC, at Newport Fire Station has reached the end of its economic life and requires significant investment for building fabric repairs. Therefore, the vacant site in East Cowes provided an opportunity to combine both facilities. The East Cowes site is ready for development. Boyle and Summers said the proposed station has a relatively traditional form of a rectangular layout and simple hip roof. Independent East Cowes County Councillor Paul Love said he was very pleased with the approval. He said, "I want to thank all those who made comments and those who made their voices heard in helping to positively influence the replacement of the station, which looked so uncertain with its sudden closure and no public warning or information. I believe it's because of community response and community action that we were all collectively able to influence and persuade the fire authority to rebuild the station, reassuring the residents of a local fast response service. It's also with thanks to East Town Council and Councillor Karen Rao for their efforts."
Good morning to you all. This is Tony reading.
And Ursula.
Lifeboat volunteer bids his farewell after 2 decades. A volunteer press officer who has dedicated more than 2 decades of his life to an island lifeboat station has bid a fond farewell. George Chastney first volunteered with Cowes Independent Lifeboat Cowes Rescue in 2003, continuing in the role when the RNLI took over in 2008. George was also a former journalist working at the county press and other papers across the south. In 1987, while at the Southern Evening Echo, George covered a tragic collision between a red funnel hydrofoil and a fishing boat, an incident which led to the establishment of a lifeboat in Cowes. After announcing he was stepping down, George was honoured at a ceremony held at Cowes RNLI station last week. The station also said goodbye to another volunteer, Jean-Marc Bonello, who is leaving after more than 5 years. Mark Southwell, lifeboat operations manager at Cowes RNLI station, said, "Loyalty and commitment are the hallmarks of a lifeboat service. Jean-Marc and George have demonstrated that here at Cowes. They have both been respected members of the team, making significant contributions in different ways, which is the only way an RNLI station can offer that all-important 24-hour service." George's connection to the RNLI is deeply personal. In 1952, at just 15 years old, he was rescued by the Ilfracombe lifeboat after falling from a cliff and breaking both legs. George said, "As someone who quite probably owes his life to the RNLI, it has been an enormous privilege to provide accounts to the media many years later of the often challenging tasks of the charity." Throughout his years of service, George not only reported on rescues, but also supported fundraising efforts and documented the life of the station. Hattie Miller, Regional Communications Manager for the RNLI, said, "George has outstanding experience through his fascinating career working as a journalist, and he's been a real asset to Cowes RNLI during his 16 years of volunteering as their lifeboat press officer. His infectious enthusiasm and his deep understanding of lifeboat rescues, have also played a vital role in the history of life-saving in cows. George will remain involved with the station as its archivist.
Bus company worker retires after 50 years. A Southern Vectors bus company worker has retired after 50 years of service. Barry Taylor, 66, spent 5 decades with the firm, starting as an engineering apprentice in August 1975 and qualifying as a fitter in 1979. He went on to hold various engineering roles before switching to tree cutting in 2006, helping keep bus routes clear. He also drove morning and afternoon school routes until his retirement. Simon Moy, operations manager at Southern Vectors, said, "Words cannot express our gratitude for such an incredible achievement. Thank you, Barry. We hope you have a long and healthy retirement, which is very well deserved." Barry said, "The job has been an incredible journey filled with lots of great memories."
Voting for mayoral authority. The Isle of Wight Council has voted for a new regional tier of government for Hampshire and the Solent. A total of 26 councillors backed a recommendation to approve, in principle, the establishing of a new Hampshire and Solent mayoral combined county authority, with 9 voting against it. The settlement agreed to is part of the government's English devolution plans, described by Whitehall as the greatest transfer of power out of Westminster to England's regions this century. 6 areas of England were admitted onto the government's devolution priority programme, Fast Track, in February, including Hampshire and the Solent, Cumbria and Norfolk, and Suffolk. A full council report prepared in advance of the meeting said the bill establishes a new form of government in England, the Strategic Authority to lead regions. Strategic authorities will be responsible for unlocking investment, infrastructure and economic growth across large geographies, while local authorities will continue to be responsible for the crucial day services residents rely on, leading the reform of local public services and improving local neighbourhoods. Devolution will give mayoral strategic authorities funding for local leaders to target priorities in their areas, skills and employment provision, more housing and investment in local business support and innovation.
Bad day for the island, MP's gloomy reaction. The island's 2 MPs have reacted to the sale of Red Funnel. Describing the sale as a bad day for the island, Joe Robertson, East MP, said, "Yet another sale to a private equity group who exist for the uncompromising pursuit of capital preservation for foreign investors." Their words, not mine. They have not even had the courtesy of contacting local elected representatives to hear our concerns on behalf of islanders before structuring this deal. While cross-Solent ferry connections are treated purely as a revenue generation for investors in an unregulated framework, island residents and visitors will continue to pay overinflated prices. West MP Richard Quigley said, "If the new owners are interested in solving the worsening problems around liability, frequency and especially pricing, then I will happily work with them. The new owners would have to have gone out of their way not to have heard islanders' concerns. And they would have to go some way to do a worse job than is currently the case. But time will tell. I look forward to hearing their plans to address these very real concerns felt by everyone across the island. I will continue pressing home that ferries are a lifeline service."
Man cooks in house. while he burgles it. A man cooked himself a pizza during a burglary at the £1.5 million manor house before injuring the home owner as he sped off in a stolen car. Aaron Hammond of St John's Road in Ryde appeared at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on Monday for sentencing. The 30-year-old had previously admitted burgling and stealing from Puckpool House in Ryde and theft of a motor vehicle on the day of his trial hearing in July. Prosecutor Holly Fagan told the court that on July the 14th, 2022, the family left their locked home and secure property behind electric gates at 10 o'clock in the morning. When the mother returned with her teenage daughter at around 2:40 in the afternoon, she found that the gates were open and her son's Citroen Crossback had been moved. As the mother approached the car, Hammond suddenly appeared in the driver's seat and sped away, trapping and squashing her between two vehicles. Inside the house, police later discovered Hammond had made himself at home, cooking a pizza, drinking coffee and juice, and leaving his jumper behind. Items had been moved from the attic to downstairs, and several valuables were missing. Hammond was arrested in the early hours in the stolen Citroen outside his house, with stolen cash, watches and keys found. Fingerprints linked him to the scene, and Hammond later told police he had entered through an open window after voices in his head told him what to do. In a victim statement, the homeowner said she now feels unsafe and violated. Ms. Fagan described the mother's long-lasting pain for being crushed and said her family now spends much of their time on the mainland, with the daughter commuting daily to the island for school. Defending, Lucy Taylor said Hammond had been suffering from severe psychosis at the time. Hammond had gone 10 years without offending prior to the incident and had not committed any offences since. He was assessed as posing a low risk of reoffending and a low risk of harm. Judge James Newton Price noted Hammond's difficult upbringing. Judge Newton Price added, "If you had no mental health issues, I would have considered a 4-year prison sentence. However, you are unlikely to have committed this burglary if you had not been suffering an acute psychotic episode." He ruled it was in the public interest for Hammond to continue treatment in the community. Hammond was handed a 2-year prison sentence, suspended for 2 years, with a £500 fine.
Police cleared after man's death. An inquest has concluded that a man took his own life at his home in Newport over 2.5 years ago. John Stephen Eastwood, a 62-year-old assistant chef originally from Birmingham, was discovered by police at his home on Staples Road on the morning of January the 3rd, 2023. Officers were contacted after concerns were raised for Mr. Eastwood's welfare. Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Constabulary were called shortly after 9:30 a.m. and on arrival found his body inside the property. In her formal determination, Coroner Caroline Summeray recorded that Mr. Eastwood had killed himself. At the time, police confirmed that the death was not being treated as suspicious. However, because officers had been in prior contact with Mr. Eastwood before his death, the matter was referred to the Force's Professional Standard Department. A police spokesman told the county press the matter was reviewed and no learning was identified. Therefore, the referral was resolved. Call Samaritans on 116 123 for support.
rival ferry firm could be on the cards. A group knocked back in its attempts to buy Red Funnel has said it will seek to engage with the Cross Solent operator's new owners before discussing options, including whether or not to set up a rival ferry firm. Last Friday, September 26, Vectis Ferries Limited revealed that for the past 10 weeks it had been in private discussions with Red Funnel's advisors and funders about a takeover. Announcing its offer had been rebuffed, the company, formed of ex-Red Funnel directors, said it felt used in order to up the offer from an alternative buyer. It warned if re-engagement proved impossible, it has credible options to launch a competing ferry service of its own. Following the acquisition of Red Funnel by private equity firm Njord Partners, Vectis has said no more about the prospect of starting up a rival ferry firm. Patrick Seeley, chair and a former Red Funnel non-executive director, told the County Press that Vectis wants to see how Njord responds before looking at alternatives. He said, Vectis has a very strong business plan which can transform cross-Solent travel while at the same time bring many new jobs to the island. Vectis will seek to engage with Njord Partners to encourage them to adopt its plan for the benefit of all parties. Vectis wishes to emphasise that the reinvestment now required in the Cowes to Southampton route provides a once-in-a-generation opportunity to change cross-Solent travel for the better. It calls on all stakeholders, including the company, the new investor, the MPs, STUG and the Isle of Wight Council to join it in working to deliver a solution which would result in real change rather than perpetuating a traditional ferry operation. Mr. Seeley said, the sale only perpetuates the private equity story, which for the last 25 years has not served the island community well. Vectis was formed in May and also has Peter Morton, the founder and non-executive director of boat building firm White Shipyard, as a director. Red Funnel's former CEO and chairman, Kevin George, and former chief financial officer, Graham Barnston, as well as shipping industry consultant James Walton, also form part of the group. Vectis has previously said it is ready to commit to invest more than £100 million in next generation ferries and new shoreside facilities. Proposals also include new aluminium vehicle ferries, cutting ferry times and creating skilled jobs at White Shipyard.
2 arrests made after spike in shed theft seen. 2 people have been arrested and police have issued a warning following a spike in shed thefts in Newport. Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Constabulary officers detained a woman and a man last Wednesday evening. A significant amount of suspected stolen property was also seized from one of the suspects' addresses. A 25-year-old woman and a 29-year-old man, both from Newport, were arrested on suspicion of 3 counts of non-dwelling burglary and 3 counts of shoplifting. The 25-year-old woman was also arrested on suspicion of an additional count of shoplifting. PSCO Romy said, in the Newport area there has been a recent spike in shed and outside storage thefts.
Marathon is returning for its 69th year. The Isle of Wight Marathon is set to celebrate its 69th anniversary this year. The event will see 200 runners tackle the challenging course on Sunday. Participants will start their journey in Cowes before navigating the undulating roads through Porchfield, Shalfleet, Yarmouth, Thorley, Chesil, Ningwood, Shalfleet, Porchfield, Northwood and Cowes. The online entries for the marathon have closed. For more information, visit the official website at rideharriers.co.uk/Isle of Wight Marathon Race -. If you missed the deadline to sign up for the 26-mile race, on the day entries will be available for those who are eager to participate. However, these will be cash-only transactions. Drivers are advised that there will be temporary traffic lights by Shalfleet Garage to aid runners crossing the main road. Expect traffic delays on the main road between 11:30 and 12:45. The race HQ and start point is at the Isle of Wight Community Centre on Park Road, Cowes.
Students get standing ovation. Young performers have taken to one of the UK's most iconic stages in a national theatre production. Isle of Wight students from Theatre Train performed at London Royal Albert Hall in the We're Gonna Change the World, a national show exploring the changes young people want to see in society. The students took on acting, dance and choir pieces, earning a standing ovation from the sold-out audience. Kevin Dowsett, artistic director of Theatre Train, said, "We're Going to Change the World was a triumph. Performed to a sell-out audience, the show ended in a prolonged standing ovation, a real testament to the energy, teamwork and talent of everyone involved. This show wasn't just entertainment. It was a celebration of growth, imagination and the Theatre Train spirit. To see them perform at such an iconic venue with such professionalism and confidence was inspiring. They rose to the challenge brilliantly and gave a performance they will never forget. The students are also preparing for their upcoming production of Kinky Boots, which will be staged at Shanklin Theatre on November the 29th and 30th. Following a string of successful shows including Footloose, Elf and We Will Rock You, Theatre Train says this year's production is shaping up to be their best yet.
Support is on hand for residents. More than 15 organisations will come together for a major community support event. Now in its 6th year, the Winter is Coming event will return on October the 16th to support islanders through colder months. Organised by Fuel Poverty organisation, the Footprint Trust, the event aims to help people stay well, save money and access vital services during winter. Laura Stitchbury, manager of the Footprint Trust, said, "By bringing together a wide range of local support groups, Winter is Coming offers our community the best chance to stay resilient. With the rising cost of living and limited financial support, this collaborative approach is more important than ever." Held at the Riverside Centre in Newport, this year's event is set to be the largest yet, with representatives from more than 15 organisations offering free advice and support. Visitors will be able to access help with energy bills, housing, healthcare, employment and benefits. Support will also be available for families and children.
The Best Kept Village Awards. Yarmouth is celebrating this week after being named the Tim Beak Trophy winner of the coveted Isle of Wight's Best Kept Village competition last night on Thursday. The results, announced at Wilberforce Hall in Bryston, saw villages judged across a range of categories, with marks awarded for litter levels, the condition of notice boards, and the general standards of tidiness. High Sheriff Jacqueline Gazzard presented certificates to the winners. Ulverston took the title of Best Kept Small Village, sponsored by Honor and Jeffrey, while Chillerton and Gatcombe was awarded Best Kept Medium Village, sponsored by Howdens. Shelfleet was named Best Kept Large Village, sponsored by Howdens, and Best Kept Extra Large Village, sponsored by Hose Rhodes Dixon, went to Yarmouth. The Village Pride Award went to Jill Fothergill.
Police catch driver after drinking. A drink driver enjoyed 2 glasses of wine on the Red Funnel Ferry before being caught by police in the centre of Winchester. Elizabeth Simmons, 44, of Great Preston Road in Ryde, appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court, where she admitted drink driving and failing to attend a previous court hearing. Prosecutor Serena Edwards said that on August the 4th, just after 7 o'clock at night, police were called to Upper High Street in Winchester to an incident involving Simmons' partner. Officers established that Simmons had been at the wheel of a Skoda Kamiq SUV, and a roadside breath test showed she had 78 milligrams of alcohol in 100 millilitres of breath, more than twice the legal limit. Simmons admitted drinking 2 glasses of wine on the Red Funnel Ferry to Southampton before diverting through Winchester on her way to visit her mum in Hertfordshire. Oscar Vincent, defending, said that his client believed she was fit to drive. Judge David Robinson noted the presence of a passenger as an aggravating factor. Simmons was disqualified from driving for 17 months and ordered to pay a £120 fine, £85 cost and a £48 surcharge.
5 additional island pubs in New Beer Guide by Alex Cooper. Island pubs have been named in the CAMRA Good Beer Guide 2026 with 5 new additions. The annual guide lists the best UK pubs that serve real ale as evaluated by members of the Campaign for Real Ale. There are 22 pubs on the list from the island, and the guide is out now. The 5 additions are: the Highdown Inn, the Totland Bay pub, is lauded for its home-cooked food and proximity to Farringford House. The pub has 5 changing beers, which are sourced regionally. Cowes Ale House. The guide praises the alehouse Wrecking for 8 cask ales on gravity and notes its popularity with locals and visitors. Cowes Ale House opened in 2024 on Shooters Hill. The Traveller's Joy, described as a good base for visitors and a thriving centre for the local community. The Traveller's Joy earns its place on the list for up to 5 ale offering and range of home-cooked food. The pub is also praised for its proximity to campsites and the Forecross bus stop. The Sportsman's Rest, with 3 real ales served on hand pump, usually with 1 local beer. The Sportsman's Rest makes its way onto the prestigious list. The pub, established in 1857, has been reopened since 2023. According to the guide, offers everything you would hope for in a classic countryside retreat. And Harry's Bar, described as a quiet sanctuary from the hubbub of the seafront. Harry's Bar is housed in the Royal Esplanade Hotel in Ryde. The bar was opened to the public in 1878 and has 1 changing beer. The guide also mentions breweries Goddard's, Island Brewery, White Knuckle and Yates. CAMRA's Good Beer Guide 2026 is the 53rd edition.
70 years of service for Island Scouting couple. Any length of service is commendable, but Val and Don Sambrook's dedication to scouting is exceptional. Together, they have given 70 years of voluntary service. Val, aged 89, and Don, 90, were honoured at the Isle of Wight Scouts AGM, where they were each presented with a certificate by the Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon and High Sheriff Jackie Gazzard. They also received a personal tribute from the UK's Chief Scout, Dwayne Fields, who placed them as shining lights of the movement. The couple began their scouting journey in Birmingham, where Val became a cub leader and Don followed in the footsteps of his father and uncles. One of Don's early memories was helping to turn a disused canal boat into a floating headquarters. They married in 1957, dubbed the Jamboree Wedding of the Year by the local press, as the whole wedding party was in uniform during the 9th World Scout Jamboree. Moving to the island in 1967, Val worked with the first Sandown Sea Scouts and later launched the first beaver colony in Sandown, while Don supported the Venture Scouts. Their favourite memory was taking 24 inner-city children to Norway in 1963 for a 14-day camp, a trip their son Mitchell, then 3, still recalls. Now, more than half a century on, Val and Don continue to inspire others, their enthusiasm for scouting undimmed.
Strike vote. A leading maritime union is balloting members at Whiteling on potential strike action amid reckless proposals to cut jobs at the ferry firm. RMT is taking the action after the Cross Solent operator revealed plans that threaten 160 jobs and undermine safety on board. Ballot papers were issued on Wednesday, with the vote closing on Tuesday, October the 14th. RMT said the proposals would see deck officer and port operator grades cut, overnight on-board retail close, and crew levels across vessels reduced. It previously called on Whiteling to withdraw plans or face strike action. Although management has now offered limited reassurances, the union said the scattergun nature of the changes still present a serious attack on jobs and conditions. As a consequence, members will be asked to back strike action and action short of strike. RMT General Secretary Eddie Dempsey said cutting safety-critical roles and crewing ferries at bare minimum levels in one of the busiest stretches of water is a terrible idea for passengers and for RMT members alike. Whitelink workers have given years of service keeping the Solent moving and deserve better than threats to their jobs and conditions. Unless management withdraws these proposals and gives guarantees to maintain the highest standards of safety and decent, secure jobs, we will take actions to defend our members and the communities they serve. Whitelink previously said, "This project is needed to modernise and improve efficiencies, so we have the right people in the right places at the right times." Rising costs and inflationary pressures are having an impact, with our cost growth being twice that of our revenue growth over the past year. A spokesperson for Whitelink said this week, "We are disappointed by the RMT's decision to ballot for strike action when we are openly working with them to discuss the proposal and consider colleague feedback. The proposal they're balloting on is still in negotiation, and we're committed to finding an agreed outcome. Our proposals are essential for the future sustainability of Whitelink, to improve flexibility and efficiency, whilst not reducing any services or investment in our ports and fleet. While legally we had to inform 160 colleagues that their roles were at risk, there are only 50 positions that may go, and there are over 30 new vacancies in the proposed new structure.
Ireland animal charities unite to tackle welfare challenges. Some of the Isle of Wight's best-known animal charities are discussing ways of working more closely for the benefit of animal welfare across the island. A meeting held at the RSPCA Isle of Wight's headquarters in Gonsill brought together representatives from Friends of the Animals, Monkey Haven, the Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary, Badger Trust Isle of Wight, the White Squirrel Project, and Isle of Wight Cats Protection. Discussions focused on the challenges they share, particularly access to veterinary care and opportunities for joint fundraising. Organisers said pooling resources and expertise would help charities respond more effectively, while collaboration could strengthen community engagement and improve fundraising impact. A follow-up meeting has been scheduled for January, with hopes that more island charities will join the initiative. The aim is to create a stronger and more connected network to tackle both immediate and long-term animal welfare issues. Steve Backhouse, Branch Director of RSPCA Isle of Wight, said, "Bringing our charities together allows us to share knowledge, avoid duplication of effort, support each other, and ultimately provide better care for the animals that need us." Helen Sinclair, founder of Friends of the Animals, added, "We are excited about the opportunities collaboration will bring, particularly in improving the speed that we can respond and help animals in need."
Island athletes backed by Isle of Wight Council scheme. Young and emerging sports stars from across the island are being encouraged to apply for the Isle of Wight Council's Talented Athlete scheme, which provides support for athletes competing at county level or above. The scheme, backed by local sponsors, offers discounted ferry travel, free use of one leisure facility, and reduced rates on physiotherapy, sports therapy, nutritional advice, and specialized sportswear. In 2025, nearly 80 athletes aged from 9 to 87 benefited, competing in sports ranging from gymnastics and squash to sailing, swimming, and even underwater hockey. One of the youngest recipients is squash player Finn Hudson, aged 9, who has already made his mark in mainland competitions. His father, Chris, said, "The support makes their sporting journey possible." The scheme also helps older athletes like Jenny Ball, an octogenarian master swimmer who regularly competes on the mainland. She said assistance with ferry costs is especially valuable. Applications are now open for the 2026 Talented Athlete Scheme. Eligible residents competing in recognised sports are encouraged to apply. Full details are available at isleofwight.observer/TA scheme.
Performance with podium finishes. A rowing club has finished the season in style with a strong performance at an event. Yarmouth Gig Rowing Club took place in the annual Head of the Ouse race on the River Ouse in Sussex on September the 27th. A 10-kilometre competition for fixed-seat rowing craft that runs between Newhaven and Lewes and back. The race, set against the backdrop of the South Downs, serves as the final challenge of the season for the club. Yarmouth men's crew secured second place in the Cornish Pilot Gig, while the women's crew finished third. Sarah Forster, ladies captain, said, "This was a wonderful day to round off our season. Both crews rowed skillfully and with great determination to achieve our second place overall. A very satisfying and enjoyable day for everyone." The rowing club have had a really successful racing season this year, and this race once again showed that they are one of the most successful traditional rowing clubs in the region. The event included 2 races, an upriver leg for the men's and mixed crews during the last of the flood tide, and a downriver return for the women as the tide began to ebb.
Vic suffer while Newport soar. All 3 Isle of Wight Wessex League football sides were back in action on Saturday. In the Wessex Premier Cowes Sports side were well beaten at Brockenhurst, losing 4-0. The hosts opened the scoring inside 2 minutes. Cowes were not without their chances, but found themselves trailing by 2 goals on 15 minutes. A third on 21 minutes gave Brockenhurst a commanding lead, and a fourth shortly after the break added some gloss to the scoreline. East Cowes also endured a difficult afternoon when they entertained Millbrook at Beatrice Avenue. Goalless at the break, the first half went by with little action. On the 50th minute, Josh Neal opened the scoring. Connor Kelly, the provider. Millbrook equalised just 6 minutes later and took the lead 8 minutes thereafter. A late goal for Millbrook in the 90th minute put the result beyond doubt, with Wicks losing 1-3. In Division 1, Newport got the better of a visiting Alresford Town. Joe Butcher opened the scoring on just 4 minutes, latching onto a wonderful through ball and slotting past the keeper. He then turned provider to extend his team's advantage heading into the break, finding the head of Mikey Tomsets from a free kick. Second half, Newport were reduced to 10 men on 60 minutes, with Harry Taylor seeing red. The Islanders held their 2-goal lead until the 76th minute, when the visitors pulled one back. Alresford lost their numerical advantage late on, the second red card of the match, and the game ended 2-1.
The sad story of a local hero. The Second World War engulfed the globe in turmoil, calling countless young men from across England to leave behind their homes, families and dreams to rescue a world in peril. From the coastal towns of the Isle of Wight to the bustling streets of London, they ventured into the unknown, driven by a shared conviction that freedom was worth every sacrifice. Week after week, they faced brutal trials, unimaginable loss, and the constant shadow of death, yet they stood firm. Among the brave men who left the Isle of Wight but never returned was Petty Officer Kenneth Charles Frank Barton. Born on January 16, 1911 in Newport, Kenneth was the oldest son of Frank Charles Barton and Elsie May Crode. He grew up in a loving household at 33 Herne Street, Newport. Raised with strong values of integrity, respect and honour, Kenneth forged the character that would determine the course of his life. Motivated by a profound desire to serve his beloved country and defend the ideals he believed in, Kenneth joined the Royal Navy in 1929 at 18. His commitment and sense of service were evident from the start. Day after day, he took pride in fulfilling his responsibilities with discipline and professionalism. Kenneth's loyalty to his shipmates made him someone everyone could count on. He eventually served aboard HMS Hood, the pride of the Royal Navy and one of the largest and most powerful battle cruisers of its time. Known as the Mighty Hood, the ship symbolised British naval strength. As a petty officer, Kenneth carried out his duties with unwavering dedication. In a world ravaged by war, where the forces of tyranny swept across nations like a relentless tsunami, Kenneth gave his all, pouring heart and soul into this desperate, fierce battle for survival. He knew that the very freedom he cherished was at stake.
Yet, during this struggle, his life was tragically cut short in one of the war's most devastating naval disasters. On May the 24th, 1941, HMS Hood engaged the German battleship Bismarck in the North Atlantic near Greenland. During the ferocious confrontation, a catastrophic explosion tore through Hood's rear magazine, causing the mighty ship to break apart and vanish beneath the waves within minutes. Of the 1,418 crew aboard, only 3 survived, making it one of the worst naval disasters in British history. Petty Officer Barton was among the men who perished. He was only 30 years old, with so much life ahead and so much to give. His body was never recovered, forever taken by the unforgiving sea. Back on the Isle of Wight, news of Kenneth's death sent waves of grief through his family, friends, and the entire community. The loss was deeply felt by all who knew him, made even more painful by the absence of a grave. Today, Kenneth's name is proudly inscribed on the Portsmouth Naval Memorial. This monument honours those who lost their lives at sea without a known grave. It stands as a lasting tribute to the courage and sacrifice of Petty Officer Barton and the countless others who answered history's harshest call in humanity's darkest hours. It is our solemn duty to remember Petty Officer Kenneth Charles Frank Barton and to commemorate the legacy left behind. His story echoes the lives of so many young men from the Isle of Wight who sailed into the unknown not for glory or recognition, but to serve a cause greater than themselves. Each had their own story, a life, a family, a future, and every single one of them deserves to be honoured.
Days gone by. The county press has been bringing the news to islanders since 1884. We've delved into the archives. 125 years ago, in October 1900, it was all change on the island after Conservative Captain John Seeley was elected MP for the island. He won with a majority of 1,062 over Mr. Godfrey Baring, and at the time of the election was in active service in the Boer War. The former Cows football captain, Frank Moore, signed on to play for Southampton Football Club. Mr. Moore was an impressive sportsman on the island and particularly excelled in football and cricket.
100 years ago, in October 1925, considerable interest was roused at Ryde Town Hall after it reopened following renovations costing £1,000. Borough organist Mr. E. Welsh twice played the local memorial of Queen Victoria's Jubilee. A poultry show was held at the Assembly Rooms, Hollywood Street, Newport. With the highest amount of entries in a number of years, exhibitors were congratulated on the high quality of entries.
75 years ago, in October 1950, a hunt for a 27-year-old man who escaped from Parkhurst prison ended after 2 weeks. He was found in the deserted hut on the Whippingham gun site by soldiers after he crossed the River Medina in a rowing boat stolen from Marvin's yacht yard Cowes. A Cowes-built ship was being used as a car ferry in the Cameroon. The motor ship Eket was built by J. Samuel White.
Now, 50 years ago, in October 1975, the first purpose-built nursery class unit on the island opened its doors at Ryde St John's Primary School. The first day attracted 20 children and a further 28 joined the week after. The conger eel kings of the island were named as Alan Deeming, Derek Toms, George Burkes and Roger Chandler. The men were all placed in the top 4 of the Isle of Wight Sea Anglers Champions competition held off the Needles. Alan Deeming won the contest with a 39-pound 12 ounces conger.
Red Funnel's 160-year-long background. Following its sale to Njord Partners, Red Funnel, which has operated ferry services to the Isle of Wight for more than 160 years, is entering a new phase in its long and storied history. As the company begins a new chapter, the county press has taken a trip down memory lane, tracing its journey from the island's first steamship service in the 19th century to its role today. In 1820, George Ward and William Fitzhugh founded the Isle of Wight Royal Mail Steam Packet Company, introducing the first steamer service between Cowes and Southampton. 6 years later, the rival Isle of Wight Steam Packet Company began its own Solent crossing. By 1860, the Southampton, Isle of Wight and Portsmouth Improved Steamboat Company had formed, including 2 modern steam deck saloon vessels the following year. In response to continuing competition, the firms merged and reorganised as the Southampton, Isle of Wight and South of England Royal Mail Steam Packet Company. 3 years later, the company assumed control of the Cowes floating bridge, operating it until 1901. With the outbreak of the First World War in 1914, many of Red Funnel's ships were requisitioned. Both the PS Prince Mary and the PS Stirling Castle were lost in action. Constructed in 1931, the MV Medina III became the first diesel-powered passenger vessel to operate an island route. In 1933, the company trialled an 11-seater Sea Coach high-speed service which operated for 5 years. 2 years later, in 1935, the fleet adopted the now iconic red funnels with black tops, and the trading name Red Funnel was officially introduced. In 1936, the PS Gracie Fields was built, the last paddle steamer constructed for the company. The PS Gracie Fields, PS Her Majesty and tug Subivois were all lost, while the PS Lorna Doone and the PS Balmoral survived, but they were left in such poor condition that they were scrapped. In 1959, the MV Carisbrooke Castle entered service as Red Funnel's first purpose-built car ferry. Over the years, these gradually replaced the ageing excursion steamers, the last of which, Balmoral II, retired in 1968. In 1969, to counter the launch of hover travel 3 years earlier, Red Funnel reintroduced the high-speed service using Italian-built hydrofoils.
The MV Netley Castle arrived in 1974, becoming the company's first roll-on, roll-off vehicle ferry. In 1989, Red Funnel faced a hostile takeover attempt by Sally Line, but was instead sold to Associated British Port Holdings. A £3 million investment followed in 1991, which brought 2 high-speed catamarans into service and prompted the withdrawal of the hydrofoils. In 1993, Red Funnel ordered 2 new Raptor-class passenger vehicles ferries, with a third to follow at a combined cost of £16 million. The MV Red Falcon and MV Red Osprey entered service in 1994, with the company boasting the youngest ferry fleet on the Solent at the time. Older ships, including MV Cowes Castle and MV Norris Castle, were sold abroad. In 1996, the flagship Red Eagle was launched, while the Netley Castle was sold overseas. The following year, Red Funnel ordered a third high-speed catamaran for £3.5 million, with Red Jet 3 entering service in time for Cowes Week in 1998. The last remaining hydrofoils were withdrawn and sold to Thailand. In 2001, Red Funnel changed hands again, as JP Morgan Partners acquired the company in a £71 million deal. Red Jet 4, launched by yachtwoman Ellen MacArthur, entered service in 2003, and the company began a major refit of its vehicle ferries to increase capacity by 60%. In 2004, Red Funnel's management, backed by banking and insurance company HBOS, completed a buyout from JP Morgan. A second-hand 35-metre catamaran was purchased from the Bahamas in 2009 and entered service as Red Jet 5. In 2014, the Red Falcon underwent a £2.2 million refit, adding 2 new lounges on the deck and boasting seating capacity. The following year, Red Osprey received a near-identical refurbishment. Red Jet 6, named by Princess Anne, entered service in 2016, while Red Jet 5 was sold to an Italian operator. In 2018, Red Jet 7 was launched. In 2019, Red Kestrel entered service as a dedicated freight ferry, and Red Jet 3 was sold to Adriatic Fast Ferries in Croatia. Red Jet 4 was sold to Namhae Express in South Korea in 2024. The same year, Red Funnel announced plans to build a zero-emission high-speed e-foiling passenger ferry. This week, it was confirmed that Red Funnel had been sold to Njord Partners, ushering in the latest chapter in the company's history.
Reflections on Island Life by Barry Jackman of the Alzheimer's Cafe Volunteer. It's now September 2025 and I still wear the orange shirt. I still volunteer at 3 Alzheimer cafes across the island. My wife died 6 years ago, but the journey we began together hasn't ended. It's simply changed course. On January the 14th, 2011, it was Ruth's 65th birthday, and we were visiting our daughter in Crawley. We were living in France, renovating a farmhouse in the Charente. We'd moved from Gatcombe in 2006, where we'd lived for 27 years and raised our children, planning to spend a decade or more abroad before returning to the island. Life was full of plans and projects. Ruth was making furnishings, tiling the kitchen, and I was knee-deep in barn repairs. We were busy, content, and looking forward. but I began to notice small things. Ruth didn't want to use the iPad I'd bought for her birthday to read the magazines she's always enjoyed. She avoided a mobile phone, even though it was essential in rural France. When I went out for hours to help neighbours or collect wood, she never called me, but usually greeted me with, "Why didn't you phone and say you would be so long?" I didn't think much of it at the time. I didn't connect the mood swings or her growing need to stay close. I was focused on the renovation. She preferred the warmth of the wood burner, cat on lap, flicking through old magazines. Then came the instant that changed everything. Ruth flew back to the island for a dental appointment. I put her on an EasyJet flight from Bordeaux and expected a routine journey. We lost contact for nearly 12 hours. She missed a pickup at Ryde Pierhead, ended up in Knighton, and was eventually helped by a pub landlord and some regulars. We were about to call the police. Her phone was charged. She had a notebook of contact numbers, but she couldn't process what to do. That was the moment I realised something deeper was happening. Ruth was having difficulty processing information and employing conventional logic. What relevance does this have? It shows the beginning of one couple's journey. It reveals how plans can go wrong. The personal, financial and emotional stability that is established through many years of partnership becomes destabilised. At the time, I didn't know why this was happening and how I could best support the person I loved. We were fortunate to find the Alzheimer Cafe. A friend who volunteered there encouraged us to come along. He promised we'd be welcome, and if Ruth felt anxious, we could leave at any time. That first visit was a turning point. I began to understand dementia, not just from a medical perspective, but from the viewpoint of a carer. I learned how to adapt, how to support her, and how to stay connected even as things changed. Aaron Davis once said, "It takes a community to maintain a human." He was right. The Alzheimer Cafes gave us that community. They offered warmth, knowledge, and a place to share the rawness of emotion that comes with this journey. They filled the gaps left by a system that often stops at diagnosis and leaves families to figure out the rest. I was seen as someone who could cope. Retired, articulate, with a decent pension, but that didn't stop me from reaching crisis. I know what it's like to feel bewildered, to watch someone you love change in ways you can't explain. That's why I became a volunteer. Nobody should have to face that alone. I still meet couples at the start of their journey. I recognise the look in their eyes, the uncertainty, the fear, the hope. I may be a volunteer now, but I'm no different to them. After all, we're all in the same boat.
Council urges residents to get back to bin basics. The Isle of Wight Council has launched a new campaign to encourage households to check their waste and recycling habits. The Back to Basics initiative is reminding residents to follow the guidelines set out in their collection booklet and on the council website. Food waste, recycling and general waste should be put out at the curbside by 7 a.m. on collection day or after 7 p.m. the evening before. Crews can work until 10 p.m. and missed bins can be reported on the council website. Recycling and waste are collected on alternate weeks, with food waste taken weekly. Green bins or sacks are for mixed recycling such as glass, plastic and metal, while black insert or blue gull sack is for paper and cards. Extra recycling will be accepted if placed in clear or white bags, but extra general waste will not be collected. Contaminated bins will be tagged and must be corrected before the next collection. Residents are asked to return bins by 7 p.m. the following day to avoid obstructions on pavements. Free food caddies and replacement containers can be ordered at https://Isle of Wight Observer Wastes Recycling or by calling 823777.
Don't miss tickets for the Isle of Wight Literary Festival. There is still time to get your tickets for one of the Isle of Wight's biggest annual cultural events, the Isle of Wight Literary Festival. From October the 8th to the 12th, Northwood House in Cowes will host around 50 top authors, as well as music, poetry, culinary treats and much more. Giles Brandreth, Dame Prue Leith, Sue Barker, Helen Lederer, Kath Gibson and political stalwart Sir Graham Brady are among the literary heavyweights topping the bill, while there are lots of hidden gems among the lineup. From Southampton Football Club legend Francis Benali, talking about his football and fundraising exploits, to controversial author Andrew Lowney, answering questions about the disgraced Duke of York and former Great British Bake Off winner Candice Brown, there is something for everyone. Crime, comedy, the royals, ghosts, history, nature, and much more are on offer across the 5 days of the festival. And there are the special events such as Culinary Thread Litfest, which features cookery demonstrations in the HTP-sponsored Litfest marquee, the Fizz Quiz, a music and arts finale featuring Rula Lenska, plus tours of the Royal Yacht Squadron. Island authors are not forgotten either, and the Right on Right segment has a number of events to bring talented Isle of Wight writers to the attention of festival goers. More than 5,000 island school and college students are catered for in the education programme, which will see authors visiting campuses across the Isle of Wight. The ballroom and other rooms in Northwood House will host the talks, with St Mary's Church and Cowes Enterprise College also being used. Maggie Anchors, festival chairman, said, "We have a wonderful lineup of authors this year and hope the island public and visitors will come along and enjoy a whole range of thought-provoking talks and demonstrations. Our special events, including the musical finale with Rula Lenska, and an extra dimension to the festival, making it an exciting 4-day spectacle." Tickets are available online via iw.observer/lit-tickets.
And now in other news, NHS flu and COVID jabs now. Flu and COVID vaccinations are now available across the island for eligible groups. COVID jabs are offered to those aged 75 years, care home residents, and people with weakened immune systems. Flu vacancies are available for the over 65s, clinical risk groups, pregnant women, and children aged 2 to 16. For the first time, 2- and 3-year-olds can get flu vaccines at local pharmacies. Vaccination can be booked via the NHS app, National Booking System, or by calling 119. Drop-in clinics are also running across the island. For help, contact the NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight helpline on 0300 561 0018.
Isle of Wight Festival headlines, and Wet Leg are heading home. Some of the biggest names in music will be appearing at next year's Isle of Wight Festival with The Cure, Calvin Harris and Lewis Capaldi headlining over the weekend of June the 18th to the 21st at Seaclose. Festival director Caroline Giddings said, "It might be our best lineup yet. It's my favourite so far at least. We're proud to put the future of music and current stars on a bill alongside artists like The Cure and the Sex Pistols who helped lay the foundation of pop culture. The festival has always been an extension of the Isle of Wight's rich cultural history, from Lewis Carroll and Denison to Julia Margaret Cameron. The island has always been a source of inspiration for artists through time. We always try to honour that by presenting the very best music has to offer, giving people an unforgettable festival experience in the process." Lewis Capaldi will headline on Friday, followed by the producer and DJ Calvin Harris on Saturday, and rock and indie icons The Cure on Sunday. They will be joined by our own Grammy Award-winning Wet Leg, who will also be making their homecoming on the main stage. Other big names making an appearance including Katie Tunstall, Rick Astley, Anastasia, David Gray, Teddy Swims, Five and Star Sailor. Tickets are currently available on sale throughout the Isle of Wight Festival website.
And now something else jolly from the Isle of Wight Steam Railway, a celebration of real ales and steam. Choose from a huge selection of real ales and a few ciders. The bar opens from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Regular buses to Button Station from Ryde and Newport will go back to local brews from Yates, Goddard's and Island Brewery, plus others from across the UK. Travel on Island Line trains to Smallbrook Junction from Ryde, Brading, Sandown or Shanklin. And this is on the 11th to the 12th of October. Visit Isle of Wight Steam Railway Co. UK/events for more information.
Now we have a letter from Rob Young at Swanmore, Hampshire, headed Floaty Questions. Your excellent weekly assured us there will be a full and lengthy consultation with boat builders, ferry operators and other experts to decide the design and specification of the replacement Cowes floating bridge. I wonder if there was a similar and sensible activity to decide the format of the disaster that it will replace. If such research did not take place for the previous ferry, who of our elected decided it was not necessary?
Former midwife gets warm welcome at unit. A former midwife visited the maternity unit where she spent much of her career. Jo, now a resident at Bryston Grange Care Home, visited St Mary's maternity unit in Newport. The visit was organised by staff at the care home after they learned how much she missed her working life and the friendships she made at the hospital. She was welcomed by former colleagues and shown around by her friend and fellow midwife, Tracy. Jo was said to be delighted to see familiar faces and share memories and to look around the unit to see how things had changed. She missed working as a midwife terribly, and staff said she was beaming throughout the visit. Rhea Smith, registered manager at Bryston Grange, said, "Our residents never stop being the people they were. They carry their stories, their passions, and their purpose with them." Helping Jo reconnect with her life's work wasn't just meaningful for her, it reminded all of us why we do what we do. The visit is part of Island Healthcare's approach to creating meaningful experiences for residents where possible.
We have a letter from Anne Grant in Fareham headed Free Speech. Paul Knocker misunderstood my letter, which was posted in County Press on the 19th of September. My shock at Nigel Farage's absence from Parliament wasn't only about yet another visit to America, but his own brazen words, quote, "Parliament doesn't serve me well at the moment," end quote. Hence he seldom attends and prefers to be elsewhere. However, since Mr. Knocker raised the reason for Mr. Farage's USA visit to give evidence to a congressional committee on free speech, it's a pity the Reform Party's leader claim that free speech is under threat in the UK fell on Donald Trump's deaf ears when Mr. Farage saw his friend in the White House for a photo opportunity. Only days later, the Trump administration put pressure on a pay-to-view TV channel to take off air a comedian's show because they were offended by something he said. Freedom of speech cancelled until a few days later, when a growing number of viewers who had cancelled their subscriptions in protest at the show's cancellation caused a rethink by the TV channel owners. Profit, Trump's authoritarian Trump. The comedian show came back on air. Freedom of speech restored. The threat to free speech by President Trump doesn't end there. He questioned if broadcasting licenses issued by the US government should continue for TV channels that don't say nice things about him. As for free speech in American newspapers, he also has a problem with that. So, was Nigel Farage's US trip a good use of his time? Based on Trump's response, no. As much of what happens in America eventually happens in Britain, time will tell. As for Mr. Knocker's attempt at deflection, don't look here at Nigel Farage's frequent absences from Parliament. Instead, look over there at what the Prime Minister has been doing, a standard tactic to divert attention away from his man. Surely such deflection is unnecessary, based on Mr. Farage's desire to be Britain's free speech champion. If we don't have the freedom to question his dedication to the UK parliamentary system, we are in Trumpland territory. I doubt we are there yet.
Test after test. Peter Shrews, Assistant District Secretary of the National Education Union. Re-government plans for new mandatory reading tests for 13 years old. Test, test and test again. Another high-stakes test that's just what schools and their staff need. Less teaching time, more time to test. That's what government is proposing. Promises that results will only be published nationally mean nothing. Whenever national data exists, the consequence is often punitive, labelling of schools, narrowing curriculum, and increased stress and workload for all. Government doesn't understand the negative impact of national tests that already exist in primary schools. It will cause greater disruption to secondary teaching. A few years ago, I recall one experienced island teacher suddenly timetabling to teach 2 Year 7 classes, English reading. They were not English specialist teachers and were given the reading books on the training day before pupils started in September. They had never read either title before. Moreover, learning was limited. Books had missing or torn pages, and each book was shared between 3 pupils. Government time would be better spent on guaranteeing every teacher was a specialist, knowledgeable and experienced in their taught subjects. Every pupil and every subject teacher had the necessary resources they needed. Assessing student progress is already standard practice in all key stages. Teachers categorically do not need another national test. They identify who needs support or intervention all the time. Government should have learned test after test after test does not automatically mean high standards. This new test will decrease teaching time, increase teaching to the test, and thus will achieve the opposite. Let's focus on high standards, led by a broad and balanced curriculum taught by teachers who are trusted and empowered to support them.
Brian Wright of East Cowes writes to urge us, be proud of flag. With a reference to the flags, Karl Love is completely wrong. It's got nothing to do with inclusion at all. It's our national flag for the benefit of its population, or for those who would wish to be proud to be allowed to reside here. It's a great shame that our national standards are being watered down.
And one last here from Glen Company Ride. Misguided, it says. There are several problems with people painting roundabouts and attaching flags to lampposts, including health and safety and the general look. But the main one for me is not just that the people doing it don't have permission, it's that they think they don't need permission. These people believe the law doesn't apply to them, and that makes them dangerous. Respecting public property and shared spaces is part of what makes communities feel like safe places. I believe that a large part of these actions is both intimidatory and to push society's boundaries. If people want to make a statement, they're allowed to do so, and there are ways of doing that, but the law exists for all of us. The warning here is that some people will not stop until boundaries are clearly defined, and it's often best to set those boundaries quickly and firmly. The island is a diverse and welcoming place, and that should not be spoiled by a misguided view.
And at the end of the session, it's goodbye from Tony.
And goodbye from Ursula.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and Scaffolding News follows that.
Autumn update from Sight for White. We thought we would put together this short newsletter to keep you up to date with some of the exciting things happening here over the coming weeks. We have a wonderful range of items available to order, including our lovely 2026 Sight for White calendars and a selection of beautiful Christmas cards to help you spread some festive cheer. Our ever-popular raffle tickets are also on sale enclosed. Don't miss your chance to be in the draw for some great prizes. Every ticket purchase makes a real difference to the work we do, so why not treat yourself or a friend? I'm also looking forward to sharing some festive spirit with you at our Christmas lunch at the Isle of Wight College. Inside, you will find a special menu for the day. It will be a wonderful opportunity to enjoy a festive meal together in some good company, and I do hope many of you will be able to join us. There is still some time to enter our story writing competition if you have not yet put pen to paper. We would love to see your creativity shine. Beyond the festive fun, there are two wonderful events coming up at Millbrook House. On Wednesday the 8th of October at 2 p.m, our volunteer Morris Kachuk will be sharing stories from his colourful career in show business. This promises to be a very special afternoon. Then on Friday, the 31st of October, we will be holding our Pudding and Quiz Night. It will be an evening of tasty treats and light-hearted fun. Tickets are £5 per person, with teams of 4 welcome. If you would like to place an order, book a place at an event, or find out more, please get in touch with the office and we will be delighted to help. Our full newsletter will be with you in early November. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this little update. I look forward to seeing many of you at one or more of our upcoming activities. With kind regards, JD Viet, CEO at Sight for White.
VIP Diaries 2026. £6.50 A6 Pocket Diary 2026. Cover is bright yellow, ring-bound with VIP emblem and words large print Pocket Diary 2026 in large bold print. Our most popular item, perfect for pocket or handbag, also a super stocking filler gift at Christmas. Each double page shows one full week and has perforated corners to help keep track of days. £8.50 A5 MIDI Diary 2026. Cover is bright yellow, ring bound with VIP emblem and words large print MIDI Diary 2026 in large, clear, bold print. Each double page shows one full week and has perforated corners to help keep track of days. £10 A5 Address Book 2026. Designed with space to store all your names, addresses, telephone and mobile numbers, ranging from A to Z. Each page has space for 5 names and numbers.
£10.50 A4 Desk Diary 2026. Bright, easy read yellow cover with VIP emblem and bold large print Desk Diary 2026. Each double page shows one full week and has perforated corners to help keep track of days, ring bound and with a note section included each week. £8 A3 Portrait or Landscape Calendar 2026. Each page shows 1 month and includes UK public holidays. The back page contains a forward planner. £12 A4 Address Book 2026. Designed with space to store all your names, addresses, telephone and mobile numbers, ranging from A to Z. Each page has a space for 5 names and numbers.
£12 A4 Telephone Book. Designed with space to store all your contacts, names, telephone and mobile numbers, ranging from A to Z. Each page has space for 5 names and numbers. Please contact the office to order your diaries and calendars for next year. Final date for ordering will be Friday the 28th of November.
Christmas cards. It's that time again where Christmas cards are available. They are £3.50 each for a pack of 10 good quality cards with envelopes. We have the following designs available, but there are a limited number of each. Designs include a church scene, a robin with a birdhouse, Santa and a Christmas tree, or a dog with presents. Please call the office or pop into Millbrook House to find out what is available.
Christmas College Lunch. Friday, November 28th at 12 p.m. Starters. Sweet potato and butternut squash soup with rosemary croutons. Smoked salmon with beetroot, horseradish cream and rye bread. Chicken liver and parma ham terrine with croûtes, onion, relish and aged port dressing. Main dishes: roast turkey and gammon with stuffing, pigs in blanket and turkey gravy. Herb crushed salmon with bacon, chestnut and little gem fricassee with a beurre blanc. Festive forager's pie, broccoli, leek, squash and cannellini bean in a creamy cheddar and tarragon sauce. Desserts: traditional Christmas pudding with brandy custard, panettone bread and butter pudding with vanilla ice cream, Belgium chocolate torte with blackcurrant sorbet, homemade Viennese mince pies with filter coffee or tea. Only £15 per person. Limited spaces, so please book early to avoid disappointment.
Christmas raffle. Enclosed with this update are your raffle tickets if you wish to purchase them. They are priced at £1 each. You can buy them by calling the office to make a card payment, sending us a cheque or by using our bank details. Prizes include our luxury hamper plus many more. Please purchase and send back ticket stubs by Friday the 8th of December. The raffle will be drawn at our open morning on Wednesday the 10th of December at 11 a.m. at Millbrook House. Everyone is welcome.
Short Story Writing Competition 2025. This year's theme, Superhero. There is still time to enter our competition. Write about a superhero for a chance to have your story recorded by a celebrity and published. Entry fee per story: adults £8, 1,500 to 2,000 words, 12 to 17s up to 750 words, 8 to 11s up to 500 words, under 8s up to 250 words. Under 18s suggested donation £2. Entry forms available from Waterstones, Sight for White and Dress for Less. Email admin@iwsb.org.uk. Website siteforwhite.org.uk. Closing date Friday the 31st of October 2025.
Hello. Later today, why the advice you get at school isn't always right.
I wanted to study computer science. I had this passion and I asked the school. They said that in the first place, computer science might be too visual. And also they said that because I'm fully blind, I might need a teaching assistant who understands how to teach computer science to the visually impaired.
But first, an example of where things are stirring positively on the access front. Now, most of us have struggled at one time or another to get decent accessible seats at concerts, theatre shows, sports events. Indeed, nowadays, often the biggest problem is booking the ticket in the first place, with everything having to be done online and the devil take the slowest, which is usually us. But it seems that in Scotland at least, there might be a little more than fine words in the offing. The organisation Sight Scotland has recently produced a report on the state of arts access in Scotland and subsequently launched a campaign calling for every arts venue in Scotland to be made accessible for visually impaired people. And this has now received the backing of Scotland's Culture Secretary, Angus Robertson.
I think the Scottish Government can do quite a lot because this issue of equalities and access for everybody to public service, right across public services, is a priority for us, is to use our convening power to talk with the major ticketing companies, as well as venues, as well as cultural organisations, and then you can move on to sporting organisations and so on and so on. I don't think we'll get changes overnight, but I think we can get it in time.
Angus Robertson there, as featured on Sight Scotland's website. But how soon can fine words be turned into swift action? Well, I've been talking to Mark Ballard. He's Head of External Affairs and Campaigns at Sight Scotland, and also Alistair Mackey, Chief Executive of the Royal Scottish National Orchestra, who have already taken steps to make their concerts more accessible. I asked Mark Ballard, first of all, about what their report had to say about the current state of venue access in Scotland.
The main point that the report highlights is that you can't tackle one part of accessibility. The whole journey has to be accessible, from booking your ticket to getting to the venue to taking your seat and to getting out again and getting home. And so we put together a list of recommendations for venues, a list of political asks for government, and also a checklist for visually impaired people to use so that they can think about how they can make sure their trip is going to meet the accessibility requirements they need.
Well, it may be early days, but what effect has it had so far?
One of the things that we've been really struck by is the domino effect, that we started talking to venues in Edinburgh and Aberdeen and Glasgow about what could be done, and lots of other organisations have come on board. We had a great meeting with the Equalities Minister, Cowcab Stewart. She told Angus Robertson, the Cabinet Secretary for Culture, amongst other things, and he wanted to meet us because he was so interested in the report. So it's been great to see the enthusiasm that there is in a lot of arts bodies in Scotland about accessibility has translated into a real willingness to enter into dialogue with visually impaired people.
Let me bring in Alistair Mackey. Your orchestra is known for making sweet music, but on this issue of access, how can you strike the right note?
Well, maybe I can start by saying we were very fortunate to come across a young person called Kelsey Ma, who came on a scholarship scheme we run called Dynamo Scholarship. And as part of that, she asked if she could do a piece of research about how successful we were being for accessibility for visually impaired people. So, I mean, some things we've done already. We've now got a venue and access page on our website, so you can see exactly what your journey will be to a concert and through the concert. And that web page itself, we're working with our web developers to be sure that page functions as we hope it would, with, for example, clear labels for audio descriptors. Timings of concerts on the website, very important, not only for travel, but within a concert, do you really know what you're listening to? So we're going through a whole checklist of things that were brought to our attention. Some things we've implemented straight away, other things we're still aiming for. But I was surprised, as someone who runs an orchestra, how much we could do quite quickly and how much we weren't already doing to make things as accessible as we all want them to be.
What specifically about getting the right seat? Because what I suspect a lot of people don't understand is the variation of sight loss. I mean, I'm totally blind. It doesn't matter very much in a way where I sit, as long as I can get to it easily enough. But people with partial sight, some people want to be right up close, some people need to be further away. Is that something you could tackle?
Absolutely something we could tackle. But again, what I would say straight off is I don't know what people would find helpful. And the most important thing really is that we have a method where we can hear the best place in the hall for them to sit, and we can be sure that they get these seats. And I think we're always looking to software and technology, but something else I learned was it's still crucially important just to have a phone line where you can describe your very specific needs to another human being and they can be acted on successfully.
Yeah, why don't we come back to phone lines now with Mark? Because, I mean, it is true that having a phone line is important to a lot of blind people who still may struggle quite a lot with, doing it digitally. The obvious area where this is really crucial is booking tickets, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that was one of the common things that our policy group members raised. And I think it was the thing that really cut through with the Cabinet Secretary, because he was able to very quickly imagine, given how difficult he admitted he found it to sometimes book tickets, how difficult it would be for a visually impaired person, how inconsistent the accessibility hotlines can be. That was his big commitment, that he would get the companies that run those ticketing systems in the room and make sure that there was a common standard for accessibility and an understanding of the diversity of needs of visually impaired customers.
Isn't it true, though, that it's not just about having the right legislation? It's the fact that so often, even when you have got the right legislation, it isn't enforced.
And there's a culture change that needs to happen. My colleagues from Sight Loss Councils in Scotland, working together with Sight Scotland, did some training with the staff at the Pleasance, which is one of the biggest venues in the Edinburgh Festival. We had 200 people in the room, and the point of the training was to give all the venue staff the confidence that they could ask visually impaired customers what their needs were. And I think that's the culture shift that we need at all levels in organisations, so people know that they can talk to visually impaired customers and they've got some idea about what the different needs might look like.
I mean, Alistair, staying with that point, you have embraced this issue. I don't think it's fair to say. Can we have other specifics? What are the key things that still need to be done, do you think?
I think consistency. If you go to a hall, whichever hall, you need to understand what you will experience when you get there. And one of the pieces of research that I read that made me sad was people who are put off going to a concert because they've had an embarrassing experience in the past. So we have to put that right. So I think consistency, so you know what you're coming to, is crucially important. Things I hadn't thought about, having your ushers dressed in black doesn't particularly help visually impaired people identify who they might want to talk to when they need help. So we'll be talking to venues about whether ushers might wear something more identifiable. We'll take some advice on that. But there's a lot of measures we can do, and I don't think any of them will take significant expense. I do think it's possible.
And Mark, your campaign is calling for every venue in Scotland to be made accessible. That's a pretty big ask, isn't it?
We need to be aspirational. The Scottish Government has said its vision is one of equality of access to the arts. We're going to hold them to that and say part of that is making sure that the 180,000 visually impaired people in Scotland can access all kinds of arts venues.
Well, we'll be keeping an eye on it too. It's an ambitious aim. Mark Ballard, Alistair Mackey, thank you both very much indeed. Now, when it comes to jobs, Hasib Jabbar was always pretty clear about what he wanted to do with his life. Right from young, he was passionate about computers. As a child, he taught himself to write codes in computer languages using screen readers. And yet, when he said he wanted to study computer science for his GCSEs and then later his A-levels, he was talked out of it. Too difficult, too visual for someone totally blind, he was told. And yet, Just a few years later, and armed with a Bachelor of Science with honours from De Montfort University in Leicester, Haseeb is now working for a global IT company. He joins me. Haseeb, as someone who can just about manage to cope with his own emails, can you just explain how you managed to teach yourself coding in language that I'll understand, please?
So coding is, as a visually impaired person, is quite easy to learn coding because a lot of it is just like text-based and you can just read text with your screen reader. So I used online sources and the tutorials were all text-based. It was easy for me to use my screen reader and listen to them and understand what they're teaching.
So just explain in a bit more detail what you were told when you said you wanted to pursue computer science at GCSE and A-level. What was the attitude?
Yeah, let's start from the GCSE part. I wanted to study computer science because I wanted to learn programming and I wanted to be able to build something for the computer, whether that be a website or a desktop application or anything. I just wanted to be able to build. I had this passion and I asked the school. They said that in the first place, computer science might be too visual. Like there may be some diagrams and stuff that the exam board will not be able to accommodate for you, and they may not be able to make these adjustments. So we can't let you study this, and also it might be too fast paced for you to be able to keep up with it. And also they said that because I'm fully blind, I might need a teaching assistant who understands how to teach computer science to the visually impaired people. That was the logic at GCSE. So skip forward to A-level time and the logic was more or less the same. So they said that because you didn't do it at GCSE, now A-level is much more fast-paced and you will not be able to keep up with it.
So the first decision led to the second decision, really?
Yeah, basically.
Did you know they were wrong at the time?
Yes, I think definitely because, all I need really is some reasonable adjustment with diagrams. I don't need a specialized teaching assistant because what I'm going to learn about, the actual content it's on me to learn. Like I don't need someone specifically.
You needed their eyes, not their brain.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. You need someone to take notes for you, maybe just explain stuff here and there, like how things might be looking like in a diagram. But the actual logical understanding and the brain comes from you yourself, not from someone else.
So how come you got turned down to do A-levels, but you got accepted on a computer-led degree course by a university?
I actually went for a degree apprenticeship whereby 80% of my time is spent in the workplace and then 20% is spent in academia. So I think the reason I was accepted by universities is that universities have much more flexibility on adapting things and providing their own support, which is different than what you would get from a standardized support you get at school. I believe that's one of the key factors. So the university was able to understand my needs and able to provide, tailored support specific to my situation.
So was the fact that you had an academic degree partnered, as it were, with a job, how significant was that for you?
Pretty significant because I wanted to earn at the same time, learn and earn.
Yeah.
It's a degree apprenticeship and it's becoming more and more popular these days. You have to apply to it. It's basically applying to a job. And if you are accepted, then the employer decides which university you are going to go. So, for example, I applied to IBM. It was a regular job application. I had to go through my interview stages. And then the university of choice was De Montfort University. IBM decided that, plus the fact that I was in full-time employment, I was doing the studies on the side, meant that I'm also eligible for access to work. So I was also able to get a full-time support worker dedicated, would help me as well on top of the support the university is providing. Essentially, it's a combination of good luck and having a very good team that supports you.
We'll come back to the access to work business in a moment, but I know there are a lot of people that you feel gratitude towards. One of them is your final project supervisor in your last year, Dr. Archie Cooman, who also happens to be with us. Dr. Cooman, thanks for coming on. While trying to spare his blushes, what kind of a student was Haseeb?
Well, in short, Haseeb was an exceptional student. Not only was he bright, thoughtful and curious, but he really had a depth to his learning. So he brought a real thoughtful perspective to our discussions and, often seeing connections that sometimes others missed. I mean, what really stood out for me wasn't just his technical ability, but it was his resilience and his determination. That's probably owing to obviously his disability. But he faced barriers that most students will never ever encounter. He didn't use that to let him hold him back.
Well, you probably haven't spared his blushes in that case. Can you understand how someone showing that degree of persistence could get talked out of doing computer studies?
Sadly, I can. It's a gripe that I really have, and it's something that we really need to address. But, too often people underestimate what individuals with disabilities are really capable of. And that usually comes from effectively two kinds of misconceptions, at least in my experience. One of them being about the subject itself. So obviously, Haseeb's case, it's about computing, which Haseeb's already articulated on. Many might assume that it's far too visual or technical to be accessible. And the other misconception is about the individual, so the person, the false belief that disability somehow limits intellect or ambition. In reality, those assumptions say more about their own biases than they do about the individual. But Haseeb is a prime example of that. Given the right adjustments and the support, he not only kept pace with his peers, he excelled. The perception overlooks how adaptable the field really is. I mean, how technology and creativity and determination can break down those barriers. What might seem like an impenetrable wall is, with the right adjustments, simply another problem to solve. I mean, the real limitation lies within our societal barriers.
I want to go back to Haseeb, because you're now working, as we said, for a global IT company. We've talked a lot recently on this programme about access to work, which you mentioned, and how when it works well, it can make all the difference. But also we've talked about how there are fears at the moment that it's facing cuts. There's a lot of chatter about that. You have a support worker. How confident would you have been about this job, about maybe even about applying for the job, without a support worker? How feasible would it be without that?
I think it's still doable, definitely doable without a support worker, but there would be more sort of adjustment the employer would have to make, like being able to understand that I may not be able to go to client sites which are away and not familiar to me, because as a blind person, you can't just turn up somewhere unfamiliar without someone's site guiding you. But like a lot of companies may not be feeling like it's an additional cost. Like, why pay the cost of two people if one able person can do it? That would be the logic if there was no access to work.
One more thing. What would you say to someone like yourself who might be listening to this programme? It might even be in the same situation. What advice would you give them?
I would say that nothing is impossible. Things might take longer and they might be hard. They are hard. That's the reality. But with determination and persistence, consistency, you can achieve your dreams. Might take you longer, but don't give up.
And Dr. Kuman, I'd like to ask you the same question.
Be stubborn, be steadfast, be exactly like Haseeb when he was younger, being told no, or being in conversations that were rather dissuasive. If you've got the ambition, if you've got the desire, the aspiration to do something, stick to it. You will find the right people to talk to engage with, that will help facilitate an equitable learning experience so that you can achieve what you set out to achieve.
Dr. Archie Kuman, Haseeb Jabbar, thank you both very much indeed. And that's it for today. But as ever, we'd like your comments, experiences, stories. Have you been discouraged from doing something you know you would have been good at? And what happened next? Email in touch at bbc.co.uk, and you can leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, and producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
Here is the scaffolding and skips news for the week commencing the 3rd of October 2025. Newport area, 1 to 8 Malthouse Court, O2 shop, Holyrood Street, 7 St Thomas Square, Providence Corner Building, Pyle Street and Town Lane elevations, TUI, Post Office Lane.
And now the Ryde area. St Mary's Catholic Church, 55 High Street, ex-Barclay Bank, 7 High Street, Ryde Opticians, Union Street, 7 South Street, 9 South Street, The Heron, Union Street, 4D Spencer Road, Superdrug, 30 to 31 High Street, House of Sabre, 12 Union Street, 5 High Street, Bembridge, 1 Pier Road, Seaview. Right areas, 26 Quarry Road.
Cowes area, the Portland Inn, Worsley Road, Gurnard, 72 High Street, and Cowes area skips, 62 York Street.
And Shanklin area, Nationwide, Regent Street, Shanklin Conservative Club, 6 Palmerston Road, 39A High Street.
Finally, Ventnor area, Old Town Hall Court, Albert Street, 17 Church Street, Ashley Villa, Hamborough Road.